In this lab, we're going to look at the power of pivot tables. And pivot tables is a function within Excel that allows you to pivot out data so that you can answer a specific business question. In other words, it's like information granularity. You're only looking at the data at the level or the specificity at which you need to answer a specific business question. So here we have a worksheet, and it has 126 rows or records of information. And when we go to select this, I'm going to select and drag up. And you could see this is, it could have 126 rows, or it could have 10,000 rows of data to evaluate. We have our fields, which are region, product, date, customer, quantity, revenue, and profit. And remember, the columns in a two-dimensional spreadsheet is equivalent or metaphor for a file in a database, and their columns are equivalent to fields. So we're going to use a pivot table, and a pivot table, again, is about pivoting information out. Let's go click Insert, the icon Pivot Table, and we have two choices, Pivot Table and Pivot Chart. Let's choose Pivot Table, and we want to select all of the information. Never select blank rows or columns, only select those cells that contain data. Let's put it in a new worksheet. When we click New Worksheet, look what happens. It puts a new worksheet down at the bottom, and we can rename that by right-clicking, rename, and let's type in analysis, A-N-A-L-Y-S-I-S, because that's what we're doing. Again, when we click back on the pivot table, you can see over here we get our field list. This list is already evaluated from our data. And this is where the data is going to be evaluated from. So, for instance, let's ask a question. Let's say the business question is, what is the revenue per customer? A very valid business question. And when we ask the question, underline the nouns in the question. And the nouns in the question are customer, revenue. And look what happens. As I click those fields, it immediately goes out, evaluates all of that data, and gives a summation. Very powerful. Look at the bottom right-hand corner. Again, look at the row labels. The row labels are customers, and what have we done? We've summed the revenue for those customers. Now, we can go up here and we can choose profit. So let's not only look at revenue, but let's look at profit. And when I click profit, immediately it goes back, looks at all of this data, aggregates the data, sums it, and so we now have a sum of revenue and a sum of profit for each of our customers. So instead of looking at by customer, we can look at it by region. So we unselect customer and select region. Well, we only have one region in this case, and that's the Eastern Sales region, and there it's highlighted. But let's look at product, which is very telling. We have three products, ABC, product DEF, and product XYZ. And we certainly can see that there's a difference in revenue and profit, with the most profitable product being DEF. Again, what's happening is it's going back, the pivot table is going back and quickly evaluating all of this data and pivoting out of that data those conditions, those fields which I've selected over here. And in the bottom right-hand corner, we see that our row labels are product, and we have the sum of the revenue and the sum of the profit. For instance, what if we would say, okay, this is our sum of profit for these products. What if that profit would increase by 10% next year? What would that look at? Well, we can do what's called a calculated column or calculated field. And to do a calculation, let's click on Options and do Fields, Items, and Sets and choose Calculated Field. this dialog box comes up, which allows you to name the field. So we're going to name the field increase in profits by 10%. A very valid business question. What will this look like if our profits increase by 10%? So how do we calculate that? Well, like any Excel formula, we begin with the equal sign, and we would take our profit, insert the field, multiply that times 10%, and let's put that in parentheses so we get what a 10% increase in profit would look like. And then, of course, we had to add that to the original profit amount, plus profit. So, for instance, if we had $100 of original profit, and that increased by 10%, that would be 10% of 100 is $10. So 100 plus $10 would be our new profit. Our 10% profit on $100 would be $110. So look what happens when I click OK. When I click OK, it immediately goes out and calculates a new field for me. Beautiful. By the way, over here we now have a new field. It shows up, increase in profit by 10%. Let's go back to the original examination where we were not looking at products, but we were looking at customers. And suppose we wanted to look at a particular business sector that are customers to our company. And let's say that particular sector was banks. So how are banks doing? How well is our profit and revenue to the banking sector? Well, when you look at all of our customers, you see we sell to two banks. Citigroup is a bank, and Bank of America. So this time, instead of doing a calculated field, I want to do a calculated item. A calculated item is also a record or row. So row, record, item, the same. How do I do that? Well, let's go back up and do fields, items, and sets. And we see that item isn't selected. Well, it's not selected because we need to go over and click within our item range. And when we click that, when we click and highlight our items or records or rows, whichever you like to refer to them, calculated item is now selectable. So let's select that, and let's look at banking sector. And the banking sector, as I said, is defined as Bank of America, insert, plus Citigroup, insert. Click OK. And when we click OK, scroll down, and there it is. So it sums the values for Bank of America and Citigroup, creates a new record, row, or item, labels it banking sector, and there it is, the sum of our values. Now let's say we only want to see the banking sector. Is it possible to only see the banking sector? Yes. What we can do, go over and apply a filter. Click Customer, and when you click Customer, instead of selecting all of the items, all of our clients, unselect that, scroll down, select only banking sector, and click OK. And there we have it. And you can see the icon. It looks like a little filter. That is a visual reminder that our data is being filtered through our calculated item called banking sector. Okay, let's go back and undo the filter. This time we're going to clear filter. There we go. And let's go back, and I want to know our 10 most profitable customers. A very valid business question. So we could select our customers, and we can right click, and we can do a filter. And when we click on filter, it says top 10. Let's click top 10. But instead of showing the top 10, we could show the bottom. But I want to know the most profitable customers, but I only want to look at 5. So show me the top 5, and I'm going to select 5 items or records or rows by, instead of revenue, let's look at profit and click OK. So right there, here we have our top 5 customers by profit. Now we can also go back and we can do a sort. And we can sort from largest to smallest. And when we do sort, we can choose more sort options. And we can do largest to smallest. And click OK.